It's not up to me whether or not I can just cut a character out. Some characters are stubborn that way. People would say, well, what's your GMC? What's your goal, motivation, conflict for this character? I'd be like, well, if I know. This is Jeffe Kennedy. Also writing is Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delicious. Today is, say it with me, people, it is Friday. Woo-hoo. And if you're on video, you will note that it is also Halloween. Woo. So I am wearing my Carpe Noctem t-shirt and my witch's hat and my big black feathery wings. I'm also sort of like hitting the stuff on the side. So I hope you all appreciate that I'm wearing wings for you. And because of the way that the sun is rising, I am also getting kind of like a nimbus of golden light. So am I a good witch or a bad witch? Good angel or a bad angel? Depends on which shoulder, right? Which is actually kind of funny because the light and my golden idol, my Rita Award, are over my right shoulder, and over my left shoulder is one of my favorite pieces, which is called Straight as the Gate, and has a saint with a snake skeleton at their feet. I don't know, good and evil, relative concepts, right? Morally gray. So, happy Halloween to all of you. I've had a pretty good week. I'm working very intensely, as I have mentioned any number of times, and I have officially passed 200 pages on Magic Reborn. I have got 56,000 words, and it's coming along fine. I got to have one of those moments that I've talked about as being like the best kind of moments where I was trying to figure out like how are they going to solve this riddle, this essential mystery that they need to solve in order to finish out the overall arc. Something that I did in book one in Dark Wizard actually holds the key to the riddle. And that's so super cool when that happens. It's I always want to say, I think past Jeffe, and I want to say that it's me. Actually, I don't want to say that it's me being clever because I don't think I do this. I think this is the nature of storytelling. I think that these things come to us and we put them in because it feels right. Uh, my audiobook narrator asked me about, I guess it was Strange Familiar, the last book. There is a character, the uncle, who's kind of a great character, and he was a walk on, meaning a character that just sort of insisted on being in the story. Killian was a character that insisted on being in the story. At the end of Twisted Magic, I was really resolved to add no more characters. Too many characters in this book. No more. The bus is full. Nobody else can get on, and Killian insisted on being there. And my audiobook narrator asked about the amazing Deborah Baum. We'll give her a little shout out because she's done all of the Bonds of Magic books and she's great. Got that voice like a burnt caramel, enviable voice with that great British accent. She has to make choices, right? She has like certain voices that she makes very distinct for certain kinds of characters. But if somebody's a throwaway character for just that book, she doesn't want to give them one of the good voices, right? So she asks me sometimes, and she asked about Uncle, who is at House Harahel when Elise and Killian go there, and she wanted to know if he would be back in the next book. And I said, yeah, he was a character who insisted on being there. He was another one of those walk-on characters who just showed up. And then I actually tried to cut him because he's in just one scene in Strange Familiar. And I thought, I don't need, again, no more new characters. I thought, well, I don't need to have this character here for this one scene. But I couldn't cut him. It just wouldn't work. Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes non-writers, readers and non-writers. Certain kinds of writers maybe can do this, but I don't feel like I'm in control of the story. It's not up to me whether or not I can just cut a character out of a scene. I try sometimes, and then it's hard to explain, like maybe so much of writing and storytelling, especially for a writer like me. I'm an intuitive writer, and so everything's intuitive. And so even editing, when I'm trying to decide like how to trim down a scene or whether to keep a character or cut a character, it's all by that kind of feel. And it's like, wow, I could just cut out these lines of dialogue. I could give these important points of information to somebody else. And then no. So when she asked me, will he be back? And I was like, undoubtedly, because he's got that feeling of a character who's here to stay. And yes, he is playing a part in Magic Reborn. But uh, this thing that I figured out is a character who is in book one who's kind of there to illustrate a point. And I don't want to tell you who it is because I think it's really kind of cool that it turns out that this character is important after all. And actually, Jadrin Eladrell was the same way. Just I had him there to prove a point, demonstrate something, and then he ended up staying. Some characters are stubborn that way. But yeah, so this other character that really hasn't been heard from in a while for a lot of reasons uh, is now going to be. I just still don't know how exactly they are going to be, but they are going to solve this riddle. I know that they are carrying the key. No, I have not gotten edits back on Among the Thorns. I'm guessing they're going to come today. If a friend asked me if I'd gotten them yet, and I was like, if I were going to put money on it, I would say they're going to come today. It might be tomorrow. It could be Allie is still behind. Time will tell. One of my mentees was asking yesterday about voice. Voice. So she's working on her first book. She's been working on her first book for a while. She has thank you, several different kinds of coaching and mentoring going on. She's been getting a lot of help from Angela James, who's great. You don't want me to talk about this. Yeah. But she was asking how to define a character, how to uh, make the voice of the character come through, because we had started talking about uh, motivation. One of the other gals in the mentoring Discord had said that she had seen a podcast on doing blurbs, or the back cover copy, the short encapsulation of the book. And they had said that you need to say right up front what the character wants, and that she had realized that she doesn't know what her character wants. I hastened in to say characters don't always know what they want. People don't always know what they want. So there's this whole thing, this construct that's bandied about as writing advice, taught in many writing circles, especially genre writing. That's goal, motivation, conflict. It got popularized at some point, and as many things do, sometimes it kind of became canonized, and to the point where if I was talking about a story, people would say, well, what's your GMC? What's your goal, motivation, conflict for this character? I'd be like, well, if I know. Oh, sorry, Sydney. So the whole idea is that for each of your characters, that they have a goal, what they want, why they want it, their motivation, and the conflict, the thing that keeps them from having it. And yeah, it can be a useful way to look at storytelling, to look at character, but it's a gross oversimplification of this idea, almost to the point of ridiculousness, in my opinion. And I've had this opinion since I was a newbie writer, and I guess now that I'm like, I don't know, award-winning, best-selling, fancy loop-de-doo writer, I guess I can say at this point that Okay, I think GMC is not a useful way to go about it. I think, yes, if you're writing um, your back cover copy, that is how I write mine. Elise Fell only wants to graduate from school, um, but she can't because monsters keep turning up. It's a way of communicating the simplicity, the bones of something. But when you're writing, when you're considering your story, no, it doesn't make sense to try to figure out your characters this way. Uh, because your characters, you want well rounded characters. There's a place in genre fiction for the flat character. A lot of adventure type stories have the very flat character who has a very simple GMC, and it works for certain kinds of genre fiction. And certainly some very popular books are that way. But if you are a character driven author like myself, then you want characters that are as complex as actual human beings. And actual human beings don't have GMC. They don't have goal motivation conflict. I ask you, what do you want? What would answer would you give me? I mean, I can't hear you, but let's go ahead and give me your answer. If I say, well, what do you want? What do you want out of life? You would have a list, right? You would probably come back and say to me, well, what do you mean? Do you mean career wise? Do you mean so far as um, family, children, personal satisfaction? All of us have a lot of things that we want, and it depends on what you're asking about, right? And a lot of times, and I think this is really important, we don't know what we want. And in truth, most of my characters do not know what they want at the beginning of a story. And often, very often, they think they know what they want, but they are wrong. It's sort of like oh, I just want to live a quiet life. We could do that. We could do like Tolkien, do The Hobbit, and Bilbo Baggins only wants to be left alone and have second breakfast. And in some ways, that is what he wants and gets again in the end. But he also, it becomes important to him to save the world. And you could argue that he wants to save the world so that he can have second breakfast and live in the Shire. There are a lot of complexities to that, right? So if you look at a character and you think about, well, what do they want? What do they want out of life? It kind of depends on what genre you're writing, right? If it's a mystery, what they want is potentially to solve the murder and find the killer, right? If it's a romance, what they want is true love and personal satisfaction. If it's an adventure, maybe they want to save the world or they want to prove themselves or something like that. It's an interesting thing because if you write this way, if you write a character who in the beginning is flawed, who does not know what they want, and grows over the course of the story to overcome their failings and to uh, discover that what they thought they wanted isn't it, and that what they really want is something entirely different than what they'd been told they wanted. That's an aspect too, like their family or their society tells them, like, oh, well, what you want is to get married and have babies, right? A lot of you can relate to that. You've probably heard that if you're a female, assigned female at birth. If you're a uterus haver, you have probably been told multiple times that what you want is to get married and have babies. And there have probably been times when you thought you wanted that. And maybe it is what you want, but why do you want it? Do you want it because it'll make your mother happy because she wants grandbabies? Or is it something you actually want? You feel the difference there? It can be frustrating if you write this way because often readers will respond to those characters negatively because they don't like the character not knowing. They'll say, well, she just didn't seem to know what she wanted. And it's like, yeah, she didn't. She didn't actually, or she's flawed. She's has a long way to go to overcome like her inherent selfishness or her fears, right? Like actual human beings. The opposite of this is like the actual adventure heroine who's very popular, especially in romantasy right now, who's basically she can do no wrong, right? Maybe she has some kind of flaw, like a minor physical disability, or her hair is a weird color or something like that, but it's not a major flaw, right? But otherwise, she is amazing and wonderful in every way at the beginning, and she's amazing and wonderful in every way at the end. And that kind of thing is like an avatar for the reader of, we want our hero, right? And it's the same model of a lot of the science fiction fantasy books of in the canon that are basically adolescent male fantasies. It's like, oh yeah, he's the hero who saves the day, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a different kind of story. So wrapping back around to what I was telling my friend, I was saying, well, one thing you can do that's a shortcut is metaphors. What kind of metaphors does the person use? Like if their background is they come from a fishing village, then their personal metaphors have to do with the ocean, like this is, or sailing, this is difficult as gutting a spiny fish. That kind of thing can just be useful to shape how they interact with the world. And she said, well, she'd done that. And then I said, well, the other thing you can do, and they said that the feedback she's getting is that this person's still not coming through fully. And how do we do that? Like some people do character interviews, and I don't like to do this, but I can see that it's a useful exercise, is to simply write down the person's internal monologue or dialogue. What are they thinking about? What are they musing about? And just sort of free write it. And she commented that it sounded like unpaid labor, which true, but until you get paid, it's all unpaid labor, right? And sometimes the exercises are helpful. I totally get this because I don't like doing writing that isn't directly contributing to the book either. But until you get that feeling of characters being real people, and I love this metaphor. I talk about it often. No, I still haven't figured out who originally said it. Don DeLillo, maybe? I don't know. Um, that the act of writing, the act of creating, is building a campfire that shines its light into other worlds, and people from those worlds come and sit at the campfire and tell you their stories. And that is absolutely how it feels to me. Like they are real people. I don't have to try to make them be real people. They are real people to me. So, on that note, I am going to go get to work. I hope that you all, if you celebrate Halloween, if you celebrate Day of the Dead here in Santa Fe and New Mexico, it's Dia de los Muertos. There's going to be parades and various celebrations. Should be a lot of fun. All Saints Day, so on. It's definitely a pivotal time of year. So I hope in whatever way you like to observe that is good for you. And I will talk to you all on Tuesday. You all take care. Bye bye. Uh, not as not as supple and perky as it used to be. The story of all of our lives, right? One of my mentees was asking yesterday about voice. Oh, and here's Killian. What? I'm being summoned to wait on the cat. There's black feathers all over the floor here. I'm molting. I really don't think they care about the occasional F bomb.